We all have the right to dream, live fully, and be happy. But something called racism gets in the way of that for many people. Racism is when someone's treated unfairly just because of their skin color or where their family is from, and it hurts. Sadly, in some parts of the world, it's a much bigger issue than in others. In this video, we'll take a look at the top 10 countries where racism is especially bad. This list comes from a big study by US News, WPP, and the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, who surveyed 87 countries to figure out where racism is most severe. Let's start the countdown. 10. Sri Lanka, a country with a lot of history and cultural richness, but a place where not everyone is treated equally. The Tamil people, an ethnic group that's part of a larger South Asian community, are a minority in Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, this means they've faced a lot of discrimination. A report from 2022 by the US State Department shows that the Tamil people have had a really tough time accessing things most of us might take for granted. We're talking about basic stuff like getting into university, finding a decent job, or even getting proper healthcare and housing. This isn't just unfair treatment. It's about denying people the opportunity to live a good life because of who they are. And to make matters even worse, there's ongoing tension between the government and military, which are mostly controlled by another group, the Sinhalese. This all stems from a brutal civil war that lasted 26 years, a conflict that was longer than some of you watching this video have been alive. The effects of this war still linger, especially for the Tamil people, who continue to face obstacles every day. 9. El Salvador. Next on our list is El Salvador. On paper, the country has laws that protect people from racial discrimination, but the reality is that those laws aren't being enforced as they should. This particularly affects people of African descent and indigenous communities. These groups often face unfair treatment despite the existence of protections meant to prevent this. The US State Department has pointed out that El Salvador has a systemic racism problem. Systemic means that it's not just about individual cases. Discrimination is embedded in many parts of life, making it harder for these communities to live without encountering prejudice or even violence. So even though there are laws on the books, they aren't always put into action. El Salvador ranking 9th on this list is a reminder that having the right laws isn't enough. They need to be enforced. Everyone, no matter their race or background, deserves to live safely and be treated with respect. 8. Russia. Russia is a country known for its grand history, iconic architecture, and stunning landscapes. But beneath the surface, there are serious issues related to racism and discrimination. Right now, Russia is in the midst of a conflict with Ukraine, and while this has grabbed global attention, there's another part of the story that often gets overlooked. The US State Department has reported that people who aren't ethnically Russian are being sent to the front lines more frequently than others. This includes people from poorer, economically disadvantaged regions like Buryatia and Dagestan. These areas are far from Moscow and St. Petersburg, the wealthy and powerful parts of Russia, and the people there already face tougher living conditions. Now, on top of that, they're being disproportionately sent into a dangerous conflict. But that's not all. Inside Russia, hate crimes have been rising, with violence and hostility aimed at people because of their ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. One group that's been especially affected is the Roma people. Despite their long history in Russia, the Roma have been marginalized and discriminated against for years. For these minority groups, life in Russia can feel unsafe and isolating, where they're treated as outsiders in their own country. 7. United Arab Emirates. The UAE is a country known for its modern skyline and luxurious lifestyle. But beneath that glamour, not everyone living there has the same rights. There's a group of people in the UAE who are considered stateless, which means they don't have the same legal rights as other citizens, even though they were born and have lived there their entire lives. Amnesty International has highlighted the struggles of these stateless people who have roots in places like the Arabian Peninsula, East Africa, and South Asia. They're denied access to basic services like healthcare and education that the government provides to citizens. Imagine living in a place your whole life and not being able to see a doctor when you're sick or go to school like everyone else just because of your family's background. That's the reality for many people in the UAE, and it's why the country is ranked 7th on this list. This situation is a clear reminder that fairness and equality aren't just about how people are treated day to day, they're also about access to the essential things that everyone needs to live a decent life. 6. Myanmar, another country where not everyone gets treated equally. And for some groups, life is especially hard. There are several ethnic groups in Myanmar that aren't recognized by the government, which means they don't have the same rights or opportunities as others. According to the U.S. Institute of Peace, these groups, which include Muslims and other unrecognized communities, have faced even more challenges since a military coup took place in 2021. After the coup, life became much tougher for many of these minorities who were already struggling before. One of the most heartbreaking stories to come out of Myanmar is that of the Rohingya Muslims. The military has carried out horrific acts against them, leading to more than 700,000 Rohingya being forced to flee their homes and leave the country in search of safety. Imagine being forced to leave everything behind, your home, your friends, your whole life, just because of your ethnic or religious identity. It's a terrifying and heartbreaking reality for so many people in Myanmar, and it's why the country ranks 6th on this list. 5. Israel. Israel is often in the news because of its deep religious significance and long history, but there's another issue beneath the surface that doesn't get as much attention: the ongoing discrimination faced by Palestinians. Human Rights Watch published a report in 2021 that highlighted the many ways Palestinians are treated unfairly in Israel. And it's not just about feeling left out. It has real, tangible impacts on people's daily lives. One of the most pressing issues is the forced displacement of Palestinians. Imagine being told to leave your home, the place where you've built memories and a life, because of decisions made by people in power. That's the reality for many Palestinians who've been forced out of their homes without any control over the situation. But it doesn't stop there. Palestinians often find themselves restricted to certain areas, which limits their access to important things, like jobs, education, and healthcare. It's like there are invisible walls around them, keeping them from opportunities that others take for granted. And because of these barriers, families and communities that were once close-knit can be divided, making it even harder to maintain those important connections. This issue goes beyond individual cases of discrimination. It's a systemic problem that affects how an entire group of people can live their lives. For many Palestinians, this isn't just a chapter in history. It's their daily reality, and it's why Israel is ranked 5th on our list. 4. Iran. In Iran, the discrimination isn't just based on ethnicity, it's also about religion. Iran is home to various ethnic and religious minority groups, and for many of them, life can be a struggle. Amnesty International has reported that people from these minority groups face discrimination in many areas of life, from education to employment and even political participation. Imagine trying to get into a school or find a job, but everywhere you turn, you're met with obstacles simply because of your background or beliefs. It's like being excluded from a game you want to play, not because of your abilities, but because of who you are. For many people in Iran, that's their everyday experience. What makes things worse is that these obstacles aren't just random. They're deeply ingrained in the system. Whether it's being barred from certain schools or facing barriers in politics, these minority groups are constantly reminded that they're not on equal footing with others. This kind of systemic discrimination is what puts Iran so high on this list. 3. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is next on the list, and the issues here are both cultural and legal. In Saudi Arabia, whether you're treated as part of the community or not often depends on your citizenship status. According to Freedom House, if you're not a citizen in Saudi Arabia, you don't have much say in how things are run, and this lack of representation can lead to discrimination. But there's more to it than that. Even though it's officially illegal to discriminate based on race, people whose ancestors were slaves and who often have African heritage, along with migrant workers from places like Africa and Asia, still face serious challenges. These workers are crucial to Saudi Arabia's economy, but they're often treated unfairly at work and in other areas of life. Imagine going to work every day knowing that no matter how hard you try, you're not going to be treated with the same respect or given the same opportunities as others, just because of where you or your family comes from. It's an exhausting and unfair situation that many people in Saudi Arabia face, despite the country's efforts to improve things. The fact that Saudi Arabia ranks 3rd on this list is a reminder that there's still a long way to go in making sure everyone is treated fairly, regardless of their background. 2. Qatar. Qatar comes in at the 2nd spot on our list. Known for its wealth and futuristic skyline, Qatar grabbed the world's attention when it hosted the 2022 FIFA World Cup. But behind the scenes of this global event was a much darker story. Many of the workers who helped build the stadiums and infrastructure came from other countries, and they faced incredibly harsh conditions. Reports surfaced of workers not getting paid what they were promised, being forced to work in extreme heat, and even being mistreated. It's like doing all the heavy lifting for a project, but not only getting no credit, but also being treated poorly throughout the process. These workers came to Qatar hoping for better opportunities, only to find themselves in unfair situations that made their lives even harder. 1. Serbia. And here we are at the top of the list, Serbia. According to reports, Serbia has one of the most serious problems with racism in the world, and much of it is directed toward the Roma people, an ethnic group that's also present in other parts of Europe. The U.S. State Department has highlighted how the Roma people in Serbia are often treated unfairly, facing challenges in nearly every aspect of life. For the Roma, finding jobs, getting an education, and being part of the community are all uphill battles because of widespread discrimination. It's not just that they're treated differently, they're actively excluded in ways that make it nearly impossible for them to live their lives the same way others do. But the discrimination doesn't stop with the Roma. Ethnic Albanians in Serbia face many of the same challenges, finding it difficult to access the jobs and opportunities they need to support themselves and their families. Talking about racism is never easy, but it's important. The first step to solving these problems is understanding them, and we hope this video has helped shed some light on what's happening in different parts of the world. It's up to all of us to challenge racism wherever we see it and work toward a future where everyone is treated with fairness and respect. If you found this video insightful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around for more content that dives into important global issues. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, we're all in this together. Let's work to make the world a better, more inclusive place for everyone. See you in the next video.